I opened the door and saw her standing there in his hoodie. Not mine. His. The man she'd sworn was just a friend. My heart stopped. My knees went weak. I thought I was going to throw up right on the porch. But I didn't. I stood there, staring at her like I didn't even know her anymore. Because, truth is, I didn't. 10 years. 10 F***ing years. That's how long she lied to me. Slept next to me. Kissed me good morning. Made me pancakes. And then left for work while she was riding him. It's not just the cheating. It's how deep it went. How perfectly she played me. How she made me feel like I was the crazy one when I got suspicious. But what killed me most was what she did when I finally had the guts to leave. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She smiled. And then she took everything. The house. The savings. My F***ing dog. All of it. Gone. And now I'm sitting in a one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint, drinking cheap beer, and telling strangers on the internet the story of how the woman I loved gutted me like a pig and smiled while doing it. You want to know how it started? How I ended up here? Let me tell you. Let me tell you about Rachel. Rachel was the kind of woman that turned heads when she walked into a room. Not because she was loud. Not because she dressed wild. But because there was something in her eyes dangerous and sweet all at once. We met in Chicago back in 2012. I was 31, fresh out of grad school. Just landed a job as an analyst. She was bartending part-time while finishing her nursing degree. We met at a friend's engagement party. She spilled wine on my shirt. Apologized like her life depended on it. I laughed it off. She said I had kind eyes. That night we sat outside on the patio until 2 a.m. just talking. I should have known. I should have F***ing known. But back then, she was everything. Funny. Wild. Deep. Sexy in that quiet, magnetic way. The kind of woman who made you feel lucky just to breathe the same air as her. We moved in together 6 months later. Married the year after that. She said she didn't want a big wedding. Just a small ceremony in the woods with close friends and a string quartet. I remember thinking, God, I love this woman. She's not like the others. She's real. We bought a house in the suburbs. Had matching coffee mugs. Sunday pancake tradition. Little notes in each other's lunches. All the cute married people **T. I thought we were happy. I thought she loved me. But now looking back, there were signs. Little ones. Like the way she always took her phone to the bathroom. Or how she'd suddenly go visit her cousin in Ohio every few months. Or the way she flinched when I asked about a guy named Mason from her nursing program. I should have pushed harder. I should have asked questions. But I didn't want to seem jealous. Didn't want to be that guy. So I let it go. God, I let so much go. The first time I actually saw something, it was by accident. And it was so fast, so fleeting that I almost convinced myself I imagined it. Rachel was in the kitchen, her phone buzzing on the counter. I glanced down just for a second. Can't stop thinking about last night. Still tasting you. Black heart. My heart slammed into my ribs. I froze. She grabbed the phone so fast it was like she'd felt me looking. Laughed. Said it was a joke. My friend Courtney being gross, she smiled. You know how we talk. I nodded. But something inside me had shifted. A crack. A splinter. The start of the end. After that I started watching more carefully. She became more guarded. Passwords. Deleted texts. Always keeping her phone face down. And the girls' trips became more frequent. 3-day weekends. Random Wednesdays. And always she came back smelling like some cologne I didn't wear. I confronted her once. It was the fall of 2017. I sat her down, calm as I could, and asked her straight up. Are you seeing someone? She looked me dead in the eye and laughed. Seriously, Mike? After everything we've built? You think I'd throw that away? Then she started crying. Real tears. Accused me of not trusting her. Of trying to control her. And I broke. Apologized. Said I was just stressed. Work had been rough. I was insecure. She hugged me, whispered, I love you. Only you. Forever. And I believed her. Like a fool. But here's the twist. She wasn't just cheating on me. She wasn't just lying. She was planning. While I was busy fighting to save our marriage, she was setting up bank accounts I didn't know about. Filing paperwork behind my back. Gathering evidence to use against me, texts taken out of context, recordings of our arguments where I sounded angry and unstable. She was building a case. To destroy me. And I had no idea. You want to know who he was? His name was Brian. He worked in the same hospital as her. Physical therapist. 6'2". Perfect teeth. F***king CrossFit energy. The kind of guy who calls everyone buddy and drinks protein shakes like water. She said he was just a coworker. Turns out he was the man she'd been screwing for a decade. Since before we even got married. Since the goddamn honeymoon. I found out the full truth the way most idiots do, through a slip-up. It was Christmas 2022. She got drunk. Fell asleep on the couch. Phone unlocked. I didn't mean to snoop, but it lit up. Next year it'll just be us. No more pretending. Merry Christmas, baby. I opened it. My hands were shaking. And there it was. Years of messages. Photos. Video clips I'll never unsee. Conversations about me. About how boring I was. How he still doesn't know. How this loser thinks I love him. I felt something inside me snap. But even then, even with everything in front of me, I didn't scream. Didn't throw her out. I stood there, silent, numb, and started planning my exit. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have possibly seen coming, was that she already beat me to it. She was 3 steps ahead. The morning after I found those messages, I didn't confront her. I wanted to, God, I wanted to scream in her face, throw her sh*t in the yard, call her every name in the book. But I held it in, because something told me this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was war, and I had to play smart. So I smiled. I kissed her forehead when she woke up with a hangover. I made her coffee. I pretended I didn't know a goddamn thing. For 3 weeks, I lived like a ghost in my own home, pretending to love the woman who was slowly killing me from the inside out. But I was watching now, tracking, gathering evidence. I started copying her messages, taking screenshots, saving them in a hidden folder. I checked our bank accounts, and that's when I saw it, thousands of dollars missing. Moved into a new account in her name only. I checked credit cards, loans. She had opened 3 under my name. And get this, one of them was used to book a vacation for her and Brian to Cabo. While I thought we were saving for a second car. I contacted a lawyer. Quietly. Told him everything. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, Mike, if she's been playing you this long, she's not gonna go easy. You better prepare to lose more than just the marriage. And he was right, because while I was building a case, she was too. But hers wasn't based on truth. Hers was built on manipulation. She told friends I was unstable, that I'd been controlling, paranoid, even emotionally abusive. She took videos of me, out of context, slamming a door, raising my voice after she pushed me too far. She staged text messages, made it look like I was the monster, and I didn't see it coming. Not until the divorce papers hit me like a bullet between the eyes. She filed first, in January 2023, with full claims to the house, our joint savings, and even alimony. Alimony. From me, the guy she cheated on for king decade. And her reasoning? She claimed I destroyed her mental health, that I forced her into secrecy, that she lived in fear of my reactions, that I emotionally manipulated her for 10 years. It was so twisted, so backwards. I thought it was a sick joke, but the court didn't think so. Because guess what? She had evidence, and I had none. Because while she was planning her exit, I was planning how to fix our marriage. While she was filming my outbursts, I was too ashamed to even tell my friends what was going on. She played the victim perfectly. And in court, victims win. I lost the house. She claimed it was unsafe for her to remain in an apartment with me nearby. I lost half my savings. She cried on the stand about how she sacrificed her career for the marriage. I lost the goddamn dog. Said I was too emotionally unstable to care for a living creature. And the worst part? I had to pay her spousal support. This woman, who cheated, lied, and bled me dry, was now legally entitled to a piece of my paycheck for the next 3 years. You ever feel your soul leave your body? That's what it felt like. When the judge banged that gavel, I walked out of that courtroom like a man who just watched his own funeral. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Not even sad. I was hollow, like someone had scooped everything out of me and left a smiling shell in a second-hand suit. She didn't look at me when it was over, didn't flinch, just hugged her lawyer, shook hands with the bailiff, and strolled out like she just won a F***ing game show. And Brian? He was there, in the goddamn hallway, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, smirking like a man who just stole someone else's life and got paid for it. I wanted to hit him. God. I wanted to bury my fist in that smug, perfect face until he couldn't grin anymore. But I didn't, because she wanted me to lose control. She needed me to be the villain. So I walked past him, past her, down the stairs, out the door, and straight into the pouring rain. Fitting, right? I got in my car, my one piece of property the court hadn't ripped from me, and just sat there, watching the water smear the windshield like paint strokes over the wreckage of my old life. I didn't go home, because I didn't have one anymore. My apartment wasn't ready yet. So I drove. To nowhere. Slept in a motel off I-94 with stained carpets and a flickering neon sign. Ate vending machine peanuts for dinner. Stared at the ceiling until morning. That was the first night I realized what real heartbreak is. Not the movie kind. Not the kind where you cry to sad songs and miss someone. No. This was the kind that takes your sense of reality and crushes it in its fist. The kind that makes you question everything. Your choices. Your memory. Your own sanity. I started remembering things, weird little moments that used to mean nothing. Like how she flinched when I touched her neck. Or the way she always had some excuse when I wanted to visit her work. How she told me once that everyone has secrets and laughed like it was just a joke. But the truth is, she never loved me. Not really. I was just the guy who made her look respectable. A stable life. A clean image. A man she could blame when she needed to play innocent. And I hate myself for how long I believed in her. How hard I fought to make it work. Because here's the sickest part, even after everything, even after the betrayal, the lies, the humiliation, a part of me still missed her. Isn't that F***kid? I guess that's what happens when you love someone so deeply they become part of your identity. When they leave, it's like they rip pieces of you out with them. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror for weeks. Just this tired, sunken-eyed loser who lost it all and couldn't even scream about it. I went through the motions. Moved into a crappy apartment. Started therapy. Changed jobs. Tried to get my life back together, piece by bloody piece. But the real turning point? That came 2 months later. When I got an email. From her. Subject line, no hard feelings. I remember staring at that email like it was a live grenade in my inbox. It had been exactly 67 days since the divorce was finalized. I hadn't spoken to Rachel once. Not a call. Not a text. Nothing. She got everything she wanted and she vanished like smoke. And now here she was. Popping up like it was some casual Tuesday. Like we hadn't just spent a decade lying to each other in different ways. I clicked it. And what I read made my blood turn to ice. Hey Mike. I hope you're doing okay. I just wanted to say thank you. I know things ended in a really messy way, but I hope you can see that we both needed something different. I'm really happy now. Brian and I are moving in together next month and I feel like I can finally breathe again. I know you probably hate me, but I hope one day you'll understand why I did what I did. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. No. Hard. F***king. Feelings. After a decade of deceit. After robbing me blind. After dragging my name through the mud, through courtrooms, through lies so twisted they warped reality, she had the nerve to say no hard feelings? I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. My fingers hovered over the keyboard ready to unload every ounce of rage I'd swallowed for 10 years. But I didn't reply. Because that would have been what she wanted. To know she still had control. Still had power over my peace. So instead, I hit delete. And then, for the first time since all of this began, I let myself feel everything. I screamed. I punched the wall. I shattered a glass. I cried until my throat went raw and my chest ached like something had cracked open inside me. Because I wasn't just mourning the loss of a wife. I was mourning the version of myself that believed love was safe. That thought trust meant something. That imagined a future with a woman who was never really mine. I started writing everything down. Not for court. Not for revenge. For me. Every lie. Every red flag. Every time she made me feel like I was losing my mind when I was actually getting closer to the truth. I turned it into a document titled, The Truth She'll Never Tell. And slowly, day by day, I started building myself back, not the man she needed me to be, but the man I used to be before her. I picked up hobbies I dropped. Got back into running. Started cooking again. Went out alone and learned how to like my own company. And then something wild happened. One night, I was out grabbing groceries. Just a normal Tuesday. And I saw Brian. Alone. Looking miserable. Sweatpants. Bags under his eyes. Talking on the phone, loud enough for half the parking lot to hear. Dude, she's driving me insane. Like, she's never not mad about something. I can't king breathe. I thought this would be different. That's when it hit me. He didn't win. She didn't either. Because people like Rachel? They don't love anyone. They consume. They drain. And then they move on to the next victim. And that was the moment I realized. I didn't lose her. I escaped her. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because life was perfect. It wasn't. I still had debt. Still lived in a shoebox apartment with a leaky faucet and neighbors who argued through paper-thin walls. Still woke up some mornings with a lump in my throat the size of a fist. But I was free. Free from the gaslighting. Free from the endless guessing. Free from waking up every day wondering if I was enough. I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. There's a difference, and it took me 10 years to learn it. A few weeks later, something strange happened. I got a message. From her sister, Jenna. We hadn't spoken since the wedding. I always got the sense she didn't like me much, but it turns out she just knew something I didn't. Her message was short. Hey Mike. I just want you to know I always thought you were too good for her. I'm sorry for everything she did. If you ever want the truth, I'm here. I called her that same night. And what Jenna told me, it changed everything. Apparently Rachel had been cheating long before Brian. He was just the longest-running side piece. There were others. Coworkers. Friends. One guy she met on a trip to New York. A married doctor she slept with in a hospital closet during a night shift. It wasn't about love. It was about power. Rachel liked owning people. Liked knowing she could lie straight to your face and you'd still beg for her affection. She liked the game. The danger. The thrill of hiding in plain sight. Jenna said their whole childhood was like that. Rachel lied to their parents constantly. Framed her sister for stealing money. Faked asthma attacks to get out of tests. Cheated her way through college. Always came out clean. But deep down? Jenna said she was hollow. No real connections. No true loyalty. Just manipulation wrapped in a pretty face and a victim act so flawless it could win Oscars. Hearing it from someone else, someone who knew her, was like putting the final puzzle piece in a picture I'd been staring at for a decade. It was ugly. Crooked. Full of cracks. But finally it made sense. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't weak. I wasn't some pathetic loser who couldn't keep his wife. I was the target of a professional manipulator. A woman who treated marriage like a con job and love like leverage. And now I was finally out. Jenna and I stayed in touch. She even sent me a photo a month later of Rachel and Brian looking miserable at some family event. Rachel's smile didn't reach her eyes. Brian looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in 6 months. I didn't laugh. I didn't gloat. I just stared at that photo and thought, you can keep her. And I meant it. The real healing didn't start until I stopped trying to understand why she did it. There's no satisfying answer to a question like that. No clean explanation for why someone who promises forever ends up burning everything down, slow, deliberate, and with a smile. I used to replay conversations in my head. Little moments trying to figure out what was real and what was a performance. Was that night on the roof, the one where she cried about her dad and I held her for hours, was that real? Was the way she used to fall asleep on my chest while we watched old movies just another part of the act? Did she ever love me? But the more I asked, the worse I felt. Because no matter what answer I landed on, it didn't undo anything. It didn't return my money or my years or my peace. So I stopped asking. And I started living. At first it was small stuff. I rearranged my apartment. Got a better mattress. Bought fresh sheets that I picked out. Started running again, not to look good, not to impress anyone, just to feel the wind in my lungs and remember what being alive felt like. I got rid of everything that reminded me of her. The mugs. The photos. The hoodie I stupidly kept in a drawer just in case. I deleted her number. Blocked her on everything. Erased her from my playlists. It was like performing surgery on my own soul, cutting out everything infected and praying the rest would heal. It wasn't easy. There were nights I still woke up sweating, heart pounding, dreams full of her voice whispering lies in the dark. There were mornings I stared in the mirror and didn't recognize the man looking back, older, colder, but somehow stronger. But then, one day, something changed. I was at the park, running my usual route, headphones in, just minding my business. And I saw her, Rachel, sitting alone on a bench near the pond, wearing sunglasses, no makeup, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. She looked small. Not weak. Not sad. Just small. Like a character in a story I used to know. like someone who no longer had power over me. Our eyes met. She flinched first, looked away, pretended to check her phone. And I kept running. Didn't stop. Didn't wave. Didn't say a word. Because that was the final victory. Not revenge. Not some epic confrontation. Not even getting my stuff back. It was not caring. Not needing anything from her. Not anger. Not closure. Not even an apology. I realized then, that day, that exact moment, I was free in a way I'd never been before. Because the worst thing someone like Rachel can face is being forgotten. And I was already forgetting her. There's a kind of silence that feels like a reward. Not the awkward kind. Not the cold, lonely kind. But the peaceful, golden kind. The kind that comes after a long storm, when the sky finally clears, the air smells clean, and for the first time in years your chest doesn't feel like it's wrapped in barbed wire. That's the silence I live in now. It didn't happen overnight. Healing is messy. Ugly. Sometimes you take 3 steps forward, then wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart pounding because a dream dragged you back into her world. But slowly that world fades. She fades. The grief becomes memory. The rage becomes distance. The love, if you can even call it that, becomes a story. A cautionary tale with a beginning, middle, and end. One night, maybe 5 months after I saw her in the park, I sat down and reread that document I wrote. The truth she'll never tell. It was raw. Angry. Full of pain. But there was something beautiful in it too, because it wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. About survival. About rediscovery. About becoming a man I respected again. And for the first time in my entire F***ing life, I decided to share it. I started a blog. Just a simple, anonymous one. Threw the story up there. Didn't expect much. Thought maybe 10 people would read it and move on. But it blew up. Comments started flooding in. Emails. Messages from people all over the country, hell, all over the world, saying they'd been through something similar. That they saw themselves in my words. That my story made them feel seen. And I realized something. Maybe the point of all that pain was this. To turn it into something that mattered. To shine a light for someone else stuck in the dark. To remind people they're not crazy. That manipulators exist. That love isn't always safe, but survival is possible. The blog took off. I turned it into a podcast. Got invited to speak at a panel about narcissistic abuse and gaslighting. People started calling me the guy who escaped the perfect storm. And honestly, I wore that title with pride. Because I didn't just survive Rachel. I rebuilt from ashes. And I know someone out there reading this might still be in the fire. Still waking up next to a lie. Still questioning their own mind. So here's what I'll tell you. Trust your gut. Don't let anyone shrink your reality. If you feel like something's wrong, it probably is. And no matter how broken you feel, there's a version of you waiting on the other side that's stronger than you can imagine. I'm not fully healed. I don't know if I ever will be. But I'm real again. Present. Grounded. Whole. And that's worth more than any house, dog, or bank account she took. I think one of the most dangerous lies people like Rachel tell isn't what they say to your face. It's what they make you believe about yourself. That you're the problem. That you're not enough. That if you were just a little smarter, sexier, calmer, stronger, more forgiving, then maybe they'd love you right. Maybe they wouldn't have to lie. But here's the truth no one told me back then. Healthy love doesn't make you question your sanity. It doesn't make you feel like you're walking on glass. It doesn't shrink you, confuse you, or leave you awake at 2 a.m. wondering if you're the villain. I look back now and realize how small I became in that marriage. Not because I was weak, but because I made myself small to fit into her world. I stopped standing up for myself. Stopped dreaming out loud. Stopped laughing the way I used to because she'd roll her eyes and say it was too loud. She didn't break me overnight. She chipped away at me. Bit by bit. Compliment by insult. Kiss by betrayal. And I let her because I thought that was love. But real love doesn't erase you. It expands you. And that's what I finally found years later when I least expected it. It started with a DM. From a woman named Leah. She'd read my blog. Listened to my podcast. Said my words helped her leave a 7-year relationship that nearly destroyed her. At first, I just replied with a thank you. That was it. But something about the way she wrote, the honesty, the rawness, it felt familiar. Like someone speaking in the same language of survival. We started talking more. Emails turned to late-night phone calls. Then video chats. Then, 6 months later, she flew out to meet me. And let me tell you something. There is nothing like being seen, truly seen, after years of being invisible to the person who was supposed to love you most. Leah didn't try to fix me. She didn't flinch when I told her how broken I'd felt. She didn't judge me for the anger, or the mistakes, or the nights I cried over a woman who didn't deserve my tears. She just listened. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe with someone, not in spite of them. We didn't rush anything. Didn't slap a label on it. We just existed. Together. Open. Honest. She showed me that vulnerability isn't weakness. That being soft isn't the opposite of strength, it is strength. That love, real love, doesn't twist you. It lifts you. I still remember one night, months into knowing her, I looked over and saw her asleep on my couch. Wrapped in a blanket. One hand on her chest, breathing slow and steady. And I thought, this is what safety feels like. Not passion that burns so hot it blinds you. Not a roller coaster of lies and apologies. Just quiet. Peaceful. Safe. And I wept. Not because I was sad, but because, for the first time in over a decade, I wasn't afraid. I wish I could go back and speak to the version of me who first found that text on her phone, that split second when my heart dropped, when I knew something was wrong but tried to believe the lie anyway. I wish I could hold that man's shoulders and look him dead in the eyes and say, she's not your future. She's your lesson. But life doesn't give you shortcuts like that. You don't get to fast forward through betrayal. You have to live it. Bleed through it. Crawl your way out of the wreckage with your own goddamn hands. That's the only way healing sticks. People sometimes ask me if I regret marrying her. If I could go back, would I undo the whole thing? And I'll be honest, for a long time I would have. Without hesitation. But now? Now I understand something deeper. Rachel didn't ruin me. She revealed me. She exposed every wound I'd never dealt with. Every part of me that was too eager to please. Too scared to be alone. Too desperate to feel needed. And once she was gone, I had no choice but to confront it all. It's like she lit my life on fire and I thought I'd lost everything, but in the ashes I found myself. And that's the thing about being burned. Yeah, it hurts like hell. But it also makes you immune to cheap flames. I spot red flags now before they even wave. I know the sound of manipulation dressed up like concern. I know how to listen to my gut and not apologize for trusting it. I'm not bitter. I don't hate her. I pity her. Because a person like Rachel will never know real love. They'll spend their life collecting hearts they don't know how to hold. And in the end, they'll die surrounded by trophies, not connection. Meanwhile, I get to rebuild. Slow. Honest. Real. Leah and I? We're not perfect. But we're present. We talk. We argue like adults. We grow together. And that to me is worth more than anything Rachel ever took. The house, the savings, the dog, the years? She can have them. I got my soul back. So if you're reading this and you're where I was confused, heartbroken, humiliated, let me leave you with this. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not unlovable. You were just loving someone who never deserved you. But they don't get to define your future. You do. And your real story? It starts the moment you walk away. Sometimes people say, time heals all wounds. Bullsh*T. Time alone doesn't heal a damn thing. You heal when you face it. When you sit in the mess and refuse to look away. I had to watch the version of myself I'd built around her fall apart piece by piece, and instead of clinging to the rubble, I had to decide to build something new. That's the truth no one tells you. Survival is a choice. Not once. Every single day. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed. Days I thought maybe she was right, maybe I was the problem. Maybe I deserved it. That's the kind of poison people like Rachel leave behind. You don't just clean up the mess, you detox from it. And it takes time. But eventually the poison drains. You wake up one morning and the air doesn't feel so heavy. You catch your reflection and don't flinch. You laugh, really laugh, and realize you haven't done that in weeks. That's when you know. You're coming back to life. It's slow. It's brutal. But it's real. There was one moment, small but unforgettable, when I knew I'd crossed some invisible threshold. I was walking down the street, coffee in hand, just another gray Tuesday in Chicago. And this song came on, one of those cheesy early 2000s tracks Rachel used to blast in the car. The kind it used to make my stomach twist into knots. But this time, I smiled. Not because I missed her. Because I didn't. Not even a little. I smiled because I realized I wasn't thinking about her at all. I was thinking about the me in that memory, the guy singing off-key, arm out the window, completely unaware of the storm coming. I didn't pity him. I loved him. He didn't know what was coming. Didn't know the hell he'd walk through. But he survived. And that was enough. That moment, that stupid, corny song on a random Tuesday felt like a rebirth. Like life was mine again. And from that day forward, I stopped dragging her ghost around with me. I stopped trying to rewrite the past. Instead, I built a future. One brick at a time. One healthy choice after another. And slowly, that future started to feel like home. Sometimes people say, time heals all wounds. Bullsh**. Time alone doesn't heal a damn thing. You heal when you face it. When you sit in the mess and refuse to look away. I had to watch the version of myself I'd built around her fall apart piece by piece, and instead of clinging to the rubble, I had to decide to build something new. That's the truth no one tells you. Survival is a choice. Not once. Every single day. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed. Days I thought maybe she was right, maybe I was the problem. Maybe I deserved it. That's the kind of poison people like Rachel leave behind. You don't just clean up the mess, you detox from it. And it takes time. But eventually the poison drains. You wake up one morning and the air doesn't feel so heavy. You catch your reflection and don't flinch. You laugh, really laugh, and realize you haven't done that in weeks. That's when you know. You're coming back to life. It's slow. It's brutal. But it's real. There was one moment, small but unforgettable, when I knew I'd crossed some invisible threshold. I was walking down the street, coffee in hand, just another gray Tuesday in Chicago. And this song came on, one of those cheesy early 2000s tracks Rachel used to blast in the car. The kind that used to make my stomach twist into knots. But this time, I smiled. Not because I missed her. Because I didn't. Not even a little. I smiled because I realized I wasn't thinking about her at all. I was thinking about the me in that memory, the guy singing off-key, arm out the window, completely unaware of the storm coming. I didn't pity him. I loved him. He didn't know what was coming. Didn't know the hell he'd walk through. But he survived. And that was enough. That moment, that stupid, corny song on a random Tuesday felt like a rebirth. Like life was mine again. And from that day forward, I stopped dragging her ghost around with me. I stopped trying to rewrite the past. Instead, I built a future. One brick at a time. One healthy choice after another. And slowly, that future started to feel like home. The craziest thing about trauma, especially the kind that wears a smile and calls itself love, is that it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It follows you into new rooms, new relationships, new dreams, hiding in the quiet moments, waiting for your guard to drop. It's not the big memories that sneak up on you. It's the small ones. Like reaching for your phone and flinching, expecting an angry text. Or apologizing too fast when you didn't even do anything wrong. Or hearing a phrase, a tone that makes your heart spike even though you're safe. That's what Rachel left behind. Not bruises, but reflexes. And healing from that? It's like retraining your nervous system to trust again. There was this one night, a few months into seeing Leah, when I forgot to text her back. I was busy, phone died, nothing dramatic. But when I called her hours later, breathless, rambling apologies, she just laughed. Soft. Calm. It's okay, Mike. I figured you were busy. I paused. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I'd never heard that before. That kind of peace. That kind of unbothered trust. It floored me. I hung up and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I realized I'd been bracing for punishment that was never coming. People don't talk enough about what that part of healing feels like. The unlearning. The rewiring. The guilt that sneaks in when love feels too easy because you were taught that love is supposed to hurt. But Leah showed me slowly, gently, that it's not. Real love doesn't feel like adrenaline. It feels like safety. Like softness. Like a breath you didn't know you were holding finally being released. And I had to learn how to receive that. How to stop performing. Stop pleasing. Stop living like love had to be earned by sacrificing pieces of myself. It wasn't easy. I messed up. Sabotaged a few moments. Said I'm sorry too often. Pulled away when she got too close. But she stayed. Not because she needed me, but because she chose to. And that right there, being chosen, not controlled, became the foundation for everything new in my life. We built something slow. Honest. Solid. No secrets. No games. No pretending. And every time I looked at her and felt my stomach tighten, my chest clench, that old voice whisper, you don't deserve this. I answered it out loud. Yes, I do. Because the version of me who survived Rachel? He earned this peace. He fought for it. He burned in hell and still came back whole. So yeah, I deserve it. And if you're out there thinking you never will, let me say it for you too. You do. Sometimes I wonder what Rachel would say if she saw me now. Not the me she remembers, the one she manipulated, the one who smiled through the pain, who tried to fix something that was never broken on my end. But this me. The man who clawed his way back from rock bottom. Who stopped apologizing for things that weren't his fault. Who finally stopped mistaking chaos for passion. Would she recognize me? Would she flinch? Would she even care? The truth is, it doesn't matter. Because I'm not living my life in reaction to her anymore. I'm not writing this for revenge or for pity or for some Hollywood ending where I win. I already did. Not in court. Not in the bank. But in the mirror. In the silence. In the way I no longer brace when someone says they love me. Because that's where the real victories are. In the little moments where you realize you're not who you used to be. Like the first time I walked past our old street and didn't feel a thing. Or when I saw a couple at the grocery store arguing, the same kind of fake, smiling venom Rachel used to throw at me, and I felt nothing but gratitude that I wasn't them. Or when Leah whispered, "I love you," for the first time, and I didn't freeze. I just said it back. Calm. Confident. Certain. Because I meant it. Because I wasn't afraid anymore. Because real love doesn't come wrapped in guilt and games and walking on eggshells. It comes in the form of late-night laughter. Of sitting on the floor eating takeout and not needing to impress each other. Of being held when you don't have the words and not having to explain. It comes when you've finally made peace with yourself. That's the part no one talks about enough, the self part. Because before I could ever be with someone like Leah, I had to come home to me. I had to forgive myself. Not for loving Rachel. But for staying so long. For not trusting my gut. For abandoning my own voice just to keep the peace. I had to look at that version of me, the broken one, the lost one, and not hate him. Because he did the best he could with what he had. And that's enough. He didn't fail. He survived. And survival, friends, is a kind of success that no one can ever take from you. Not even the woman who tried to. The thing about heartbreak, real heartbreak, is that it doesn't just shatter your heart. It fractures your identity. When Rachel left, she didn't just take my things. She took my routines. My rituals. The songs I loved. The food I cooked. The shows we watched. The scent of the candle I used to light before bed. All of it felt poisoned. For months, I avoided entire streets because they reminded me of us. I changed my coffee order because she used to take a sip of mine. I threw away a leather jacket I loved because she once said it made me look cheap. That's the power people like her have, not just over your life, but over your sense of self. They invade everything. And when they go, they leave you standing in the ruins of who you thought you were. But here's the part that feels like magic. You get to rebuild. From scratch. You get to decide what stays and what goes. You get to pick the songs, the friends, the places, the habits, and none of it has to belong to them. That's what I did. I stopped asking myself what she'd think. I stopped measuring my happiness against her absence. I stopped telling the story of my life like she was the main character. She was a chapter. A long, ugly, important chapter. But she's not the book. So I made new traditions. I started Sunday morning hikes. Just me in the trees and a thermos of strong black coffee. I got a new dog, not to replace the one she took, but to remind myself that love can come back in new forms. I went back to old passions I'd let die: photography, woodworking, sketching. Things that made me feel me again. And I traveled. First short trips. Then farther. I went to Colorado and stood at the edge of a mountain at sunrise. The wind in my hair. The silence so loud it filled my bones. And I thought, this is what freedom feels like. Not having someone, but being okay without them. Not needing closure, because I'd created my own. Not winning the breakup, but reclaiming the parts of me I thought were lost forever. And the most powerful part? I no longer hated her, because to hate her meant she still held space inside me. And I was done giving her that. She was a thief, sure, but I was the builder. And everything I lost, I rebuilt better, stronger, wiser, free. It's wild how quiet real healing is. There's no dramatic breakthrough, no swelling music, no slow-motion scene where you finally get over it. It's subtle. Sneaky almost. One day you wake up and realize you haven't thought about them in weeks. You pass by your old favorite restaurant and don't feel the usual punch in the gut. You hear their name and it's just that, a name. Not a wound. That's when you know. The grip is gone. You've let go. And you didn't even realize it was happening. For me, it hit on a Wednesday. I was making dinner, something simple, grilled salmon and rice, and a song came on shuffle that she used to hum when she cooked. The kind of song that would have ruined my whole day 6 months ago. But this time, I didn't flinch. Didn't pause. Didn't drown in memory. I just kept slicing the lemon. And I smiled. Because that is the quiet miracle of moving on. It doesn't come all at once. It comes in tiny victories. In skipped heartbeats that never skip again. It comes in realizing that you are no longer living inside the wreckage. You're standing outside of it, breathing, whole, stronger than you've ever been. And with that clarity comes something else. Compassion. Not for her. Not really. But for yourself. For the man who stayed too long. Who loved too deeply. Who forgave what should have never been forgiven. I used to be ashamed of that version of me. Ashamed of how much I gave. How blind I was. How desperate I became to hold onto someone who was already gone. But now? Now I honor him. Because that man? He didn't give up. He fought. He believed in love even when it hurt. And that's not weakness. That's courage. It's easy to be cynical. Easy to build walls and swear off connection. But to stay soft? To love again fully after what she did? That takes strength. So I forgave him. The old me. Not because he was wrong, but because he was learning. And now? Now I'm the result of that learning. Wiser. Softer. Unbreakable. Not because I never got hurt, but because I did and came back anyway. There's a strange moment after healing when you stop just surviving and realize you're living again. At first, it feels unfamiliar. Like you've been underwater so long you forgot what air really tastes like. You walk down the street and catch yourself smiling for no reason. You laugh without guilt. You sleep through the night. You make plans without fear of judgment, without worrying about whose feelings you'll upset or what version of yourself you'll need to shrink into just to keep the peace. And maybe the most unexpected part? You feel joy. Pure. Undiluted. Earned. Not the kind of joy that explodes, but the kind that hums. Quiet. Grounded. Real. I remember one afternoon, Leah and I were sitting at this outdoor cafe. Nothing fancy. Just a couple sandwiches, some sun, her eyes glowing as she talked about something ridiculous she saw on the subway. I was only half listening, not because I didn't care, but because I was completely lost in the moment. In her. In me. In the absolute simplicity of it all. And I thought, this is it. Not fireworks. Not drama. Just peace. Just someone who knows me, all of me, and stays. I told her everything, by the way. Eventually. I laid it all bare, the cheating, the court, the rage, the way Rachel dismantled my life piece by piece. Leah didn't flinch. Didn't pity me. Didn't try to fix it. She just held my hand, looked me dead in the eye and said, "She didn't deserve you. But I'm really glad you're here." And in that moment I realized something I never expected to believe again. Love doesn't always hurt. Sometimes love heals. And the version of me who thought he'd never feel whole again? He was wrong. Because here I am. Whole. Not because someone else made me that way, but because I did the work. I climbed out of the wreckage. I faced the fire. I screamed, I broke, I bled, and I built. Peace by King Peace. And now? I wake up every day in a life I chose. With a partner who shows up. With friends who know the real me. With a peace that isn't performative but permanent. Not perfect, but mine. And that's the ending no one saw coming. They say scars tell stories. And mine? They whisper every lesson I was too trusting to learn the easy way. But here's the twist, I'm grateful for them now. Not because I enjoyed the pain. Not because what she did was okay. But because those scars are the reason I became who I am today. They remind me that I've already survived the worst night of my life. That I've already lost everything I thought I couldn't live without and kept breathing. That's not weakness. That's proof. Proof that resilience isn't loud. It's quiet. It's getting up again when your world is burned to ash and your hands still shake. It's smiling when you thought you'd never smile again. I used to hate the idea of starting over. It felt like failure. Like I wasted years building something just to watch it collapse. But now I understand. Starting over isn't failure. It's freedom. It's standing in the ruins and choosing what not to rebuild. It's finally realizing which parts of you were real and which parts were survival masks. I've rebuilt my life brick by goddamn brick. New job, one I actually enjoy, not one that made me feel like a wallet with a pulse. New home, small, cozy, mine. No memories in the walls, no ghosts in the closet. New friends, people who see me for who I am now, not just who I used to be. And yes, still Leah. She's not my savior. She's my partner. She doesn't fix me. She reminds me I don't need fixing. We've had our share of rough patches because that's what real relationships look like. But we show up. We talk. We choose each other every day. No games. No secrets. No manipulation. And sometimes when I catch her laughing at one of my stupid jokes or humming in the kitchen while she makes tea, I get this tightness in my chest, not pain this time. Just awe. Awe that I made it out. Awe that I'm here. Alive. Clear. Whole. And if Rachel were to walk in today, right now, and see this life, she wouldn't recognize it. She wouldn't recognize me. Because she never knew the real me. She only knew the version she could control. And that version? He's gone. In his place stands a man who walked through hell and came back with fire in his lungs and peace in his heart. Sometimes I think about how close I came to staying. One more apology. One more lie I chose to swallow. One more time I told myself it's not that bad. If I had just accepted the silence. If I had let her twist my world a little tighter. If I had kept pretending, smiling for pictures, laughing at nothing, performing happiness like a trained dog, I'd still be there. Trapped. Bleeding quietly in a house that looked perfect from the outside. And that thought, it terrifies me more than anything she ever did. Because it shows how easy it is to lose yourself when you love the wrong person the right way. That's what makes people like Rachel so dangerous. They don't break you with fists. They break you with doubt. With softness. With slow erosion. You wake up one day and don't recognize yourself, and you don't even know when it started. But here's what I learned the hard way. You don't owe your life to the version of you who stayed. You owe it to the version of you who left. Who ran. Who fought. Who finally said enough. That moment when I packed my things, when I stepped outside our house for the last time, when I shut that door and didn't look back, was the moment my real life began. And no, it wasn't a clean break. I limped. I stumbled. I second-guessed every goddamn step. But I kept going. And now? Now I walk without fear. Because the worst already happened. And I'm still here. You don't forget a wound like that. You don't just move on, you move through. But eventually, pain becomes memory. And memory becomes story. And that story becomes testimony. Of what you endured. Of what you overcame. Of who you really are underneath the bruises and betrayal. And if you're reading this right now and you're still in the thick of it, still in the house, still hoping they'll change, still trying to make sense of the lies. Let me be the voice that shouts what yours is too tired to say. You deserve more. You deserve better. You deserve to come back to yourself. And I swear to you, on the other side of the pain, there's a life so peaceful, so pure, so full of truth, it'll feel like being born again. But first, you have to walk. Even if you're scared. Even if it breaks your heart. Walk. And don't stop. I'll be here, waiting for you on the other side. There's a moment deep in the healing when you realize you're no longer just surviving your past. You're inspiring others through it. I didn't plan to become the guy who tells his story. I was just a man trying to breathe after being buried alive in lies. But somewhere between the pain and the rebuilding, I discovered something I never expected. My voice. And with it came connection. People started reaching out. Strangers from all walks of life, men, women, even couples, writing to say, your story saved me, or now I know I'm not crazy, or you put into words what I've felt for years. And every time I read those messages, I feel the weight of it. The responsibility. Because this isn't just about me anymore. This is about every person who's ever laid next to someone who made them feel invisible. Every person who gave their all to someone who only took. Every person who looked in the mirror and wondered if they were the broken one. Let me say this loud and clear. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not alone. I carry your stories with me now. The teacher from Texas. The nurse from Detroit. The single dad in Oregon who gave his ex-wife everything just to protect his daughter. The woman who left a narcissist after 15 years and still hasn't stopped apologizing for breathing too loud. You're seen. And your scars? They don't make you less. They make you real. Battle-tested. Truth-telling. Soul-deep humans who've walked through fire and came out not just alive, but awake. That's the gift Rachel accidentally gave me. Not pain though, God knows she gave plenty of that. But purpose. She tore me down. But in doing so, she exposed the foundation of who I really am. And what I've built since then. It's not just stronger. It's untouchable. Built on honesty. Bound by empathy. Fueled by a voice that will never again be silenced for the comfort of someone else's ego. So now I keep telling the story. Not because I need revenge. But because somewhere out there, someone's sitting in the dark, wondering if they're crazy, if they're alone, if they'll ever escape. And if my voice can be their match, then every scar was worth it. So here we are. The end of the story, or at least the end of this chapter. And if you've made it this far, if you've walked with me through every betrayal, every breakdown, every breathless moment of rage and grief and clawing back to life, thank you. Because this story wasn't just for me. It was for anyone who's ever handed their heart to someone who dropped it. For anyone who gave and gave until there was nothing left but questions. For anyone who crawled out of a house that looked like love but felt like war. You're not alone. You're not weak. And no, you didn't deserve it. But you do deserve what comes next. You deserve to be believed. To be held without conditions. To be loved without manipulation. To speak without fear of being called crazy. To live in peace without apologizing for finally choosing yourself. And here's the truth that no one told me when I was shattered and afraid and starting over from nothing. The life you're dreaming of? The one without the lies, the chaos, the constant second-guessing? It's real. It's not just for other people. It's for you. But first, you have to walk through the fire. And it's going to hurt. And it's going to feel like dying. But it's not. It's a rebirth. And when you come out on the other side, when you finally step into the sunlight with scars on your skin and strength in your eyes, you'll know exactly what I mean. You'll know that healing isn't about becoming who you were before. It's about becoming someone new. Someone braver. Someone clearer. Someone who knows that survival isn't just a story, it's a badge of honor. I don't hate Rachel anymore. I don't wish her well either. I just don't think about her. And that's the most beautiful kind of freedom. Because she took my house, my dog, my savings. But she didn't take me. And now, I'm here. Living. Loving. Telling the truth. Unapologetically. Unshakably. Unbreakably. This was my story. But it could be yours too. And if you ever forget how strong you are, read this again. Because you survived. And now you begin.